Alright, there's a brand new Farmland SPAC IPO coming up in the next few days. The timeline keeps changing. I'll keep you updated on that on my Twitter and my Telegram journal. And I will be getting in on this SPAC on the ground floor. The SPAC I'm talking about today will be trading under the ticker GLEEU, and it's called Gladstone Acquisition Corporation. For those of you who are new to the channel, really quick, I'm Eugene Chargrain, an investor here on YouTube documenting my investing journey. I'm best known in the small community here for home run investments in the ventilator company VMD before the pandemic began, investing in the company that had the very first FDA approved AAV gene therapy, as well as the biotech companies Bold and Avexis before their milestone buyouts for billions of dollars. Now, what is a SPAC, really quick? Putting it as simply as I can, most companies, when they're still private, when they're not yet on the stock market, want the money that an IPO on the stock market can give them, but they don't want to go through all the regulatory work and headache of listing on the stock market. So here steps in the SPAC. Sponsors and investors raise money to IPO a SPAC ahead of time, and then that company, that SPAC, later goes out and searches and tries to find companies to merge with. This way, the SPAC skips the regulatory hurdles of a traditional IPO. After a SPAC is IPO'd and listed on the stock market, meaning that you can now buy shares, there are two possible outcomes. First outcome is, number one, the SPAC finds and IPOs with a merger target, in which case your SPAC shares eventually will become shares of the new company that's IPOing, and that will go public. Second option is that the SPAC is unable to find a company to merge with, and in which case all the units of that SPAC are redeemed at their original listing price, which is $10. If the SPAC does work out and does find a company to IPO with, and that IPO is popular, you've essentially gotten insider shares in that new company before it's even been listed on the stock market. Now, of course, with everything, there is a trade-off. And that trade-off is you have to know for a fact that that management is solid. You have to have total faith, essentially giving a blank check to the management of that SPAC, knowing that they'll be able to find a target to merge with. And in the case with GLEEU, personally, I really like the management team. For the longest time, only insiders have been able to get in on the ground floor of IPOs, but with SPACs, they allow you to get in early into new desirable companies rather than getting stuck with retail investors who have to buy companies after they IPO when most of the appreciation and the gains has already been given to insiders and private equity. Buying into a SPAC, if executed well, allows you to act like the insider and get into the pre-IPO through this effectively exotic financial process. And some of these examples speak for themselves. For example, the SPAC that merged with Nikola IPO'd for $10, and then at the all-time high of Nikola, it's obviously not that now, that company, after its IPO, was over $90. We're talking a 9x. Another one you might have heard of, which is also created by a SPAC, was DraftKings. So that SPAC IPO'd at $10, and at the height of DraftKings, that was $64. You're talking a 6x. So why am I buying this particular SPAC, GLEEU? GLEEU's management team is the same management team, more or less, between Gladstone Land, a farmland REIT that has returned since the beginning of this year alone 30%, and nearly 100% since last year, all the while paying a 2 to 3% dividend. Those returns are even more crazy when I tell you that this company buys farmland. It leases and controls farmland, meaning that this company with the safety profile of farmland, right, one of the safest assets out there, it's been returning crazy returns all the past year. If you compare the risk of Bitcoin, for example, versus farmland, these returns on farmland, given the lower risk, are very impressive. I've been long land, for full disclosure, and it has done very well for my portfolio. Currently, it's in my top 5 returners of the last year. And you can check out a video I made in the past about Gladstone Land before the price blew up, and if you'd watched that video, maybe you could have learned something about that. The video I'm talking about is worth watching. The next thing I would do after watching this video is to read the GLEEU S1 amended that was filed with the SEC. It'll explain everything you need to know about the GLEEU SPAC and its management as well as its acquisition strategy. I think a very important section too is the section about the safeguards in place to combat potential conflicts of interest, because many on the management team also have positions in Gladstone Land as well as other publicly traded companies. But either way, the management team's track record in the farmland space is very impressive. We're talking about this company, Gladstone Land, the REIT, IPO'd at around $100 million. It's now worth $500 million today, which is a 5x. They've taken their farmland portfolio, I think now it crossed the $1 billion mark of controlled farmland, all the while giving you one of the safest safety profiles out there while giving you a dividend. If the REIT, Gladstone Farm, has impressed me this much, I'm even more excited about a potential farmland SPAC. My plan is to get in on the SPAC IPO as early as possible. I'm talking as close to $10 as possible and then just holding after that. That's my plan. I really like this SPAC. My guess is, my reason for investing is that I think that this team is going to find a SPAC merger target in the agricultural sector that for now no one's heard about, but after the IPO merger is announced, people are going to look and realize, oh wow, this target, this is my speculation, this target is one of the pillars of the agricultural industry. See, right now what's happening is that all these SPACs are competing with each other, trying to get increasingly more and more niche, meme stocky companies to IPO with, whereas this is taking an approach, and again, looking in the past, into agriculture. Right now, SPACs aren't looking into that space, and this has the potential, in my opinion, given the lack of competition, to find an extremely desirable company in the agricultural space to merge or IPO with. And after that happens, then investors will realize how much of a no-brainer and how important this SPAC is and that agricultural company is. So right now, this is my favorite SPAC in existence, and the lack of hype and attention at the IPO will likely let me buy into this IPO near $10, maybe above, and hopefully even below $10. And that's a good situation for me because on most other IPOs, they're fighting around $20. Now with the SPAC, if it fails to find a target, you get that $10 return, but in the case of buying in at a $20 valuation, you just lost half your investment. And the entire point of a SPAC is to get a degree of protection by buying in close to that $10 price. So I think I'm going to achieve this with this SPAC. In regards to the returns I think I can expect on this investment, here's a chart that I found on Reddit talking about milestone SPAC IPOs, and the returns are really exciting. I talked about this briefly earlier, but from SPAC IPOs at $10, getting into the ground floor, which will hopefully be me with GLEEU, you're looking at anywhere from a 4x return all the way up to a 9x return. And I think, this is my opinion, this is what I'm going to do. I think this SPAC is going to find an eye-grabbing, an attention-grabbing IPO that other SPACs are overlooking because they're so focused on meme stocks, trying to IPO meme stocks. So for this one, in addition to the other companies I've been following, I will be documenting my journey with my very first SPAC investment. If you want to learn more about SPACs in general, I'll link some resources down in the description. Thank you for watching the video, and as always, like and subscribe, leave a comment. Feedback is the most important thing to me right now. And additionally, if you want to get my thoughts a little bit earlier, I encourage you to follow me on the Telegram journal. So be sure to go over to the Telegram Investing Journal, link down in the description. If you want to get started investing, there's an affiliate link down in the description to M1 Finance, so you can start investing there. That's all for this video. It feels good to be back.